I really think that we've just been able to encapsulate the amount of difference in not only in my voice but in the kind of person I've become over these past 2.5 years.
What happens when a shy, bullied boy with a voice that could stop time loses to a dancing dog on national television? Jonathan Antoine's story is one of unexpected fame, heartbreak, and a transformation that touches much deeper than just music. From viral sensation to solo star, his path has been anything but smooth. Simon Cowell, a man known for his unshakable composure, was allegedly moved to tears by Jonathan's journey, a testament to the raw emotion behind this young singer's rise and the trials that nearly broke him. The shocking Britain's Got Talent moment. Jonathan Antoine stepped onto the Britain's Got Talent stage in 2012 as an unlikely contender. At just 17, he looked like any nervous teenager, with glasses, a shy demeanor, and the vulnerability of someone unused to the spotlight. His singing partner, Charlotte Giaconelli, stood beside him, forming a classical crossover duo no one expected to take seriously. The judges' skepticism was palpable. Simon Cowell's dismissive comment barely hid his doubt, while the other judges appeared equally unimpressed. But then Jonathan opened his mouth, and everything changed. The first notes of the prayer silenced the room with a power and maturity beyond his years. Simon's jaw literally dropped. Amanda Holden's eyes widened, and the audience erupted, swept up in the emotional force of Jonathan's crystalline tenor voice. Suddenly, the boy who had been bullied and underestimated appeared unstoppable. The contrast between expectation and reality left everyone breathless. Simon Cowell, the notoriously tough judge, was floored enough to compare Jonathan to Luciano Pavarotti, arguably one of the greatest tenors in history. This was more than a glowing compliment. It was a seismic acknowledgement of the rare talent in front of them. Despite the power of that moment, the surprising twist was yet to come. When the competition came to a close, Jonathan and Charlotte did not win. Instead, they were beaten by a dancing dog act, a novelty that left the public stunned. The notion that a singing prodigy would lose to a dancing dog seemed absurd, and yet reality struck hard. Jonathan described the sensation as feeling like his organs sinking, though he managed to hold back tears on stage. The emotional pain was real, but what followed was even more unexpected. This loss was not the end of Jonathan's story. It was, in many ways, the beginning of something greater. The fallout from the show opened doors, leading to opportunities far beyond the contest. But the question remains, how did a boy with such a gift go from national heartbreak to international acclaim? And what challenges lurked behind the scenes of this meteoric rise? Simon Cowell's reaction foreshadowed more than just admiration. It hinted at a story of resilience and struggle that the public had yet to hear. The layers beneath Jonathan's victory and loss would soon reveal the true price of fame and the emotional battles that accompanied his voice. Though the shock of losing dominated headlines initially, insiders knew the path ahead would test Jonathan far beyond the stage. The seed of doubt and heartbreak planted at Britain's Got Talent would grow into complex decisions about identity, partnership, and self-discovery. This moment defined Jonathan's future, setting the stage for a journey where talent alone wouldn't be enough to guarantee happiness or success. The next chapters would show the fragility behind the triumph and the courage needed to move forward. As the dust settled on the competition, the public saw only a runner-up, but behind the scenes, a much deeper story was unfolding, one that Simon Cowell would later find profoundly moving. Jonathan's sudden rise was dazzling, but stardom brought challenges no one saw coming. Fast rise to stardom. Despite missing out on the winner's crown, Jonathan and Charlotte's post-show career exploded almost overnight. Just one day after the finale, Simon Cowell was in talks to sign the duo to a £1 million recording contract under his label, Psycho. This deal signaled that success was not solely measured by a trophy, but by the belief of industry experts in their potential. The music world was ready to embrace the unlikely pair. Their debut album, Together, released in September 2012 in the UK and later in the United States, soared to number 5 on the UK charts. Featuring classical arias and the iconic rendition of The Prayer, the album sold over 250,000 copies. Critics praised Jonathan's velvety, creamy tenor voice as something truly miraculous and unique, cementing his place as a rising star. The media frenzy grew, with documentary crews following their tours through France and Italy. ITV even produced a special showcasing their journey, offering fans a closer look at their whirlwind success. Simon Cowell, who had initially suggested Jonathan consider a solo career, publicly apologized for urging the duo's split. For many, it looked like a fairy tale come true, a story of overcoming odds and achieving dreams. The first signs of conflict began to emerge from the bright exterior. Their second album, Perhaps Love, released in October 2013, showed signs of divergence. The duo performed contemporary cover songs together with their own individual tracks to demonstrate their different musical preferences. Charlotte preferred musical theater as her chosen path, but Jonathan wanted to pursue classical opera instead. The contrast between the two teenagers, who suddenly became international stars, emerged through this situation. The combination of fame and musical dreams became more challenging when both factors combined to create additional pressure. The youthful optimism of their initial success now faced the harsh realities of creative differences and personal growth. Music industry experts detected the hidden tension, while most fans stayed completely unaware of it. The duo's performances showed cracks between their harmonious singing, which revealed underlying problems that would prove difficult to solve. Jonathan faced the decision of whether their partnership had reached its limit, or if he should continue to work as a solo artist. Their rapid ascent brought them both exciting moments together, with dangers that threatened to destroy their success. Achieving fame brought them public recognition, but required them to make crucial choices that would determine their individual paths. The happiness of their past now faced combat from both doubt and rising expectations. The world maintained its interest in their story, while they battled through challenges, but people expected their partnership to end. The music was extraordinary, but what about the people behind the voices? The internal conflict that developed during their rise to fame eventually led to an important decision. The partnership that had launched Jonathan into the public eye was nearing its breaking point. Cracks in the partnership. The professional partnership between Jonathan Antoine and Charlotte Giaconelli was initially fueled by friendship and shared dreams, but cracks soon appeared as their artistic visions diverged. Jonathan's heart lay firmly in classical opera, where he could fully explore the depth and emotion of his tenor voice. Charlotte, on the other hand, was increasingly drawn to musical theater and contemporary styles, desiring a different creative path. Both pursued what felt authentic to them, but the gap between their ambitions widened, making collaboration difficult. For teenagers suddenly thrust into the relentless world of international fame, balancing personal growth with partnership was a daunting challenge. The pressure amplified their differences rather than bridged them. Behind closed doors, tensions simmered as they recorded solo tracks on their second album and began to contemplate futures apart. These solo contributions were early signs of an inevitable split, though they tried to maintain appearances for their devoted fan base. The excitement of success was tempered by an unspoken question: could they continue on the same path? Their connection, once unbreakable, began to fracture under the weight of competing desires. What had started as a magical pairing was becoming a professional challenge, neither fully anticipated. The strain tested their friendship as well as their musical alliance. The two travelers achieved their most beautiful educational experience through their journey, which ended when they reached its natural boundaries. He discovered that both he and Charlotte needed to perform as individual artists because they could not function as group performers. The painful discovery became an essential step towards their personal development. Media outlets reported different theories about the split, which included claims that Charlotte had made the decision without consulting anyone, while fans expressed sadness over the breakup of a musical duo who had achieved worldwide popularity. The reality showed more complexity because the individual had developed through periods of uncertainty which led to professional growth and learned to manage the challenges of living with public recognition. The Twain fan community experienced shock from their breakup because most members believed that the couple would reunite. The couple ended their partnership when they announced their breakup on February 2, 2014. The two artists began their separate musical careers with Sony Classical after they both signed record contracts. The end of Jonathan and Charlotte's collaboration changed everything for both artists and their fans while transforming the entire classical crossover music industry. The process of dealing with the consequences required Jonathan to discover his new personal identity through different pathways. The painful breakup led Jonathan to discover his unique sound as solo artist, which he needed to develop through various upcoming obstacles and successes. Separation ignited a transformation that tested Jonathan's resilience in ways the BGT stage could never reveal. The public split. The announcement on February 2, 2014 shook fans worldwide. Jonathan Antoine and Charlotte Giaconelli were ending their partnership. After capturing hearts and selling over 250,000 albums together, the classical crossover duo dissolved just 2 years after their Britain's Got Talent breakthrough. Both were offered solo record deals by Sony Classical, signaling promising individual futures but marking the end of a shared era. Their joint statement spoke of a positive journey that began in school and highlighted the incredible achievement of coming second on BGT. They expressed excitement about their solo careers and framed the split as a natural evolution rather than a falling out. Yet, the media and fans struggled to accept this narrative. Many questioned the amicability of the breakup, speculating on underlying tensions and unresolved conflicts. Rumors swirled that Charlotte had dumped Jonathan, contributing to the heartbreak felt by their devoted fan base, the Twain. The youthful duo, so close for years, suddenly seemed distant and fractured. Social media buzzed with speculation, and longtime followers were left wondering how something so magical could unravel so quickly and publicly. Years later, Jonathan shed light on the true reasons behind their split. He credited Charlotte with helping build his confidence, allowing him to step onto the BGT stage with poise. However, as individual artists, neither was truly suited to a permanent duo. Both loved solo performances, and the demands of crossing over classical and contemporary music made their partnership increasingly limiting. The process of professional separation occurred because both parties experienced personal development. Jonathan explained that he needed to work independently after he gained self-confidence, which allowed him to understand himself better. The transition from one state to another required both parties to move through painful experiences, which showed their development toward maturity. The split between them involved two people who needed to create new identities to define themselves. Jonathan and Charlotte ended their romantic relationship, but their personal connection remained an ongoing issue. Jonathan explained during interviews which occurred years after their separation that they did not communicate with each other because their work demands made it hard to connect. Charlotte had initially insisted that ending the musical partnership wouldn't mean losing contact, but reality diverged from that hope. Two best friends turned into creative partners who now no longer share a close relationship. The fans maintained their desire to see the two people together again, but time created an even greater gap between them. The loss extended beyond music because it created a break in personal relationships that had provided them support throughout their initial success. The story demonstrated how success pressures and the need for changing ambitions can destroy partnerships which become unstable when they face such challenges. Both individuals followed different professional paths after their initial separation, but they both continued their careers, which led to new ventures. The end of their relationship led both artists to create their first artistic work while they experienced personal transformation. The ending of Jonathan and Charlotte's partnership created a major moment which brought about both personal transformation and career development for him while she achieved her first professional success. Jonathan's journey was far from over. In many ways, the most challenging chapters were just beginning. Jonathan's early life and struggles. To truly understand Jonathan Antoine's resilience, it's essential to look back at the childhood that shaped him. Born on January 13, 1995 in Hainault, Essex, Jonathan grew up in a typical household with a police inspector father and a homemaker mother. But behind this ordinary backdrop was a story marked by relentless bullying that started when he was just 4 years old. Imagine being a young child targeted so brutally and consistently that it becomes an inescapable shadow. Jonathan was mocked mercilessly for his weight, appearance, and simply for being different. The torment was harsh enough to push him into coping mechanisms that offered comfort, food, and music became essential refuges in an otherwise hostile environment. Despite the cruelty, something extraordinary was quietly developing within him. At age 11, a turning point came when Jonathan enrolled at West Hatch High School in Chigwell and met singing coach Jenny Ewington. She recognized a raw, untapped talent in this bullied boy, one that would one day mesmerize the world. Jenny nurtured his gift through pieces like Where is Love from Oliver and Pange Lingua, helping shape his exceptional vocal abilities. Jonathan's voice stunned those around him so much that fellow students began quietly calling him the boy with the incredible voice. By the age of 14, he had auditioned for all 4 major music conservatories in London and was accepted by everyone, ultimately choosing the prestigious Royal Academy of Music's junior program. His talent was undeniable. In 2010, at the Stratford and East London Music Festival, Jonathan performed Bring Him Home from Les Miserables and scored an unprecedented 98 out of 100, the highest in the festival's history. A boy once tormented for being different was now being celebrated for his artistry. It was a hard-won transformation fueled by years of determination beneath the surface. He continued rising, performing at London's Royal Festival Hall in 2011, confidence replacing early fear. But this foundation, built on years of isolation, hardship, and self-discovery, would prove crucial for the challenges awaiting him in the public eye years later. Jonathan's early life was a powerful lesson in endurance and the hidden battles behind great talent. The scars of bullying ran deep and would resurface in different ways throughout his career. Yet, the music and the support he found became beacons in the darkness. This background offers vital insight into why Jonathan reacted so strongly to both his successes and setbacks. It wasn't just about fame or music, it was about fighting for identity and acceptance. Understanding where Jonathan came from reveals why his journey was as much an emotional quest as an artistic one. His story reminds us that behind every astounding voice lies a human being shaped by struggle, hope, and resilience. The path from bullied child to solo star was neither easy nor straightforward. Every note he sings carries the weight of a lifetime's pain and triumph. solo breakthrough, and new opportunities. Jonathan Antoine faced the daunting challenge of stepping out on his own when he released his debut solo album, Tenor, in October 2014. The pressure was immense. Could fans accept him without Charlotte by his side? The answer was a resounding yes. Tenor soared to #1 on the Classical Artist Album chart, making Jonathan the youngest tenor ever to claim that spot. It even cracked the United Kingdom Pop Top 15, signaling a crossover appeal that few classical artists achieve. Critics hailed the album as a stunning testament to his talent. One reviewer called Jonathan a new star on the vocal scene, praising his ability to blend classical technique with emotional depth. The powerful rendition of Pange Lingua showcased not just his vocal range, but also his growing command as a solo performer. His voice had matured, and with it, his confidence flourished. That same year, one of the greatest tenors in history, Plácido Domingo, personally invited Jonathan to perform as his guest at the 2014 iTunes Festival. Imagine the validation in being embraced by a legend on such a prestigious platform. Jonathan also toured America, performing at the Muhammad Ali Celebrity Fight Night across several states, including Arizona, California, and Florida. His solo career was gaining international momentum, proving that he could indeed stand on his own. In August 2016, Jonathan's second solo album, Believe, was released. It featured classical arias by Puccini, as well as Leonard Cohen's Hallelujah, and some original collaborations showing his willingness to explore and diversify his sound. The album was inspired in part by Michelle Douce, a Canadian waitress Jonathan met online, whom he called the light of my life. She became a muse behind much of that work, illustrating how his personal life infused his music with new layers of feeling. Jonathan advanced his career to a higher level through his 2020 work Going the Distance, which he recorded with the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra and performed in Toronto with special guests. This project became his first U.S. television special, which PBS broadcast to viewers. The concert featured his first-ever recording of Nessun Dorma, the aria from Puccini's Turandot, considered one of the most demanding in classical repertoire. The audience recognized Jonathan's perfect execution as the critical milestone that established his developing talent. Jonathan established himself as an independent artist through his multiple album releases and concert performances, which demonstrated his complete musical abilities beyond his former partnership with a popular duet partner. His name filled concert halls in the United Kingdom and the United States because fans wanted to see him perform and learn about his personal story of overcoming difficulties. He stopped being part of a team his life because he wanted to, through his individual performance. The music industry brought success to the boy, whom Simon Cowell doubted, but his new life required him to deal with challenges which remained hidden from people outside the music industry. The triumphs were punctuated by moments that tested his resolve, reminders that stardom was as much a personal battle as a professional achievement. Jonathan discovered that he needed to develop his ability to recover from difficulties just as he did for his artistic skills. He pursued his creative goals while handling the challenges which came with his duties to protect his public persona and maintain his artistic rights. He showed his growth through every project which represented his progress from previous challenges which he managed through years of dedicated work and self-evaluation. Jonathan achieved an extraordinary solo career which became more meaningful through his hidden struggles that influenced his vocal performances. And yet, what truly defined this chapter was not just the milestones, but the control he gained over his own path. No longer shaped by expectations or comparisons, Jonathan began choosing projects that reflected who he was becoming, not who people expected him to be. The weight of those battles would soon come into sharper focus as Jonathan revealed struggles beyond the stage. Battles beyond the spotlight. Success, however dazzling, did not erase the trauma Jonathan Antoine carried from his early years. Throughout interviews, he has been remarkably candid about his ongoing struggles with depression. Years of relentless bullying, feeling mocked and physically threatened, had left emotional scars that proved harder to heal than any physical wound. The mental toll remained significant even amidst the applause and accolades. His battle with acute depression became so severe that Jonathan was forced to cancel a major performance at London's prestigious Royal Albert Hall. Imagine the crushing pressure of stepping back from one of the world's most iconic venues because one's mental health simply would not allow performing that day. It was a reminder that behind the artist was a very human experience of pain and vulnerability. Around the same period in his late teens, Jonathan endured a deeply toxic relationship with a girlfriend struggling with serious mental health issues and harmful coping behaviors. He later revealed that her struggles were never hidden, but coping with both his own fragile mental state and the challenges of that relationship was devastating. The experience left emotional wounds that shaped his perspective on love and trust. Throughout these battles, Jonathan relied heavily on his family. His father, John, a police inspector, his mother, Tracy, and his older sister, Charlotte, who is not to be confused with his former singing partner. Their unwavering support became a vital anchor amid the turbulence. They attended his performances, stood by his side, and helped him navigate the roller coaster of fame and mental health. Jonathan refused to hide his struggles. He became an advocate who shared his depression treatment experiences while participating in awareness campaigns. His willingness to share vulnerability offered hope to others facing similar darkness, turning pain into purpose. He also co-authored children's books which included Jonathan and the Porcupine, that contained anti-bullying messages which showed his transition from victimhood to advocacy. Jonathan struggled with his weight problem because he dealt with it through silent battles for multiple years. Food provided Jonathan a safe space during his most challenging moments, which led him to develop ongoing difficulties with weight and self-worth. Starting in 2018, Jonathan began his weight loss program after learning about his thyroid condition and developing a dedication to reaching his goals. Jonathan recognized that he needed to solve more problems despite people celebrating his weight loss achievement. His journey was never just about appearance, but about understanding himself more fully. He achieved physical transformations which displayed his inner progress because he faced suppressed feelings and developed new methods of self-care. The healing process follows a complex path that seldom delivers direct answers. The story shows how triumphs and setbacks create an intricate pattern of both resilience and struggle. Jonathan's willingness to share his personal experiences became a guiding light for others because he showed that true strength comes from showing our most vulnerable sides. The public sees his performance, yet he hides his internal struggles, which show that true bravery exists outside of public recognition. Jonathan developed his artistic skills during his recovery process, which brought him mental and emotional stability. But even with that stability, the journey never truly ends. There are quiet days when progress feels invisible, when the weight of the past returns without warning. Yet Jonathan learned something powerful in those moments. Healing is not about becoming perfect. It is about continuing anyway. He focused on small wins, consistent routines, and protecting his peace. Over time, those choices reshaped his life. Not overnight, not dramatically, but steadily. And that is what makes his story resonate. Not just the voice, not just the stage, but the decision to keep going when no one is watching. These intertwined quests set the stage for the diagnosis and transformation that would change everything. Autism diagnosis and transformation. In April 2022, shortly after turning 27, Jonathan Antoine received a diagnosis that profoundly reshaped his understanding of himself. autism spectrum disorder. This revelation came as a recontextualization of a life already lived, explaining in new light the social struggles and intense focus on music that had long defined his experience. For Jonathan, it was both liberating and terrifying to finally have clarity about why his brain worked differently from many around him. The autism diagnosis helped explain why past bullying had affected him so deeply and why relationships often presented unique challenges. Jonathan realized that many aspects of his life, his intense dedication to music, his feeling of being out of step socially, were rooted in his neurodiversity rather than personal failings. This understanding offered a fresh perspective and a foundation for greater self-compassion. But the transformation Jonathan underwent was not only internal. Between 2020 and 2024, he embarked on one of the most dramatic physical makeovers seen in recent entertainment history. Losing over 70 pounds, with some sources estimating closer to 120. Jonathan's change stunned fans and critics alike. The transformation happened gradually through discipline, including a daily goal of walking 10,000 steps, rarely missed even while managing his thyroid condition. Jonathan explained that the key to his weight loss was choosing discipline and intention over old struggles with food and comfort. His revamped lifestyle wasn't about conforming to external standards, but about reclaiming his health and feeling strong for the first time in a decade. By 2024, he weighed about 210 pounds, sporting the same signature curly hair, but with a much slimmer face and confident presence. The physical change was accompanied by a mental and emotional shift. Jonathan looked more comfortable in his own skin than ever before. His fans responded with overwhelming support, praising not only the visible transformation, but his honesty and willingness to share the journey's ups and downs. This openness made his story more relatable, inspiring many who faced their own battles with health and self-acceptance. The period brought forth new artistic musical accomplishments. Jonathan released his track, All of Me, in January 2026, which serves as a breathtaking new version of John Legend's original song. The track belongs to his upcoming album, Speaking to You, which features songs including Sound of Silence and The Impossible Dream. His dedicated fan twins remain active because he uses social media to create excitement about his project. Jonathan released his Christmas album, Christmasland, in December 2024, which brought a joyful new element to his musical collection. He has achieved an estimated net worth of almost $4 million through his work in music and live performances and television shows. The boy who faced rejection about his potential has achieved success because of his ability to persist through challenges and his natural abilities. Jonathan dedicates his life to supporting mental health initiatives and promoting neurodiversity and preventing bullying behavior. His advocacy work includes speaking engagements at events and running social media campaigns and writing children's books. Jonathan uses his artistic work to reach more people than his performances because he supports others during their difficult times. Jonathan Antoine demonstrates his life through two main themes that run through his entire life. The story demonstrates how people survive their challenges and evolve into their true selves. From his experience as a bullied child to becoming a viral internet star, he transformed from a fractured partnership into his successful solo career, while battling his mental health issues and discovering himself through autism. Jonathan Antoine's journey reminds us that true strength lies in overcoming hardship and embracing who you really are. From heartbreak to healing, his voice tells a story of courage that resonates far beyond music. If his journey inspired you, please like and subscribe for more stories that celebrate resilience and hope.